Ah, I see you've wandered back into my web of shadows and secrets. How delightfully reckless of you. Tonight, my little moths, I'll unravel for you a tale born of flame and ashes, a story of rebirth that's not so much a gift, but a curse. So, do settle in and heed my warning. What you're about to hear may linger in your thoughts long after the darkness has claimed your sleep. Let us begin. There once was a woman named Callista who owned an antique shop in a sleepy, forgotten town. Her shop, Ash and Antiquity, was filled with relics of the bygones, trinkets imbued with long-lost stories. Callista had built her life around gathering treasures that most viewed as trash. She was meticulous, resourceful, but there was something peculiar about her, as if she didn't quite age, as years seemed reluctant to trace her pale skin. People whispered, speculated, but dared not ask her why. One foggy evening, a weary traveler staggered in, seeking nothing in particular but finding everything unusual. His name was Jonah, and his eyes were lit with curiosity, a trait that would become his undoing. Jonah was drawn to an object hidden behind the counter, a small ornate urn with elaborate script etched along its surface. Its elaborate design seemed out of place for something so solemn. When Jonah asked about the urn, Callista hesitated, her fingers tightening ever so slightly on the counter's edge. "It's not for sale," she murmured. But Jonah, relentless and intrigued, asked her why. And that, my dear listeners, was the second mistake he made that evening. The first was walking through that door. Callista, uncharacteristically candid, explained that the urn belonged to the ashes of something that was once alive but shouldn't have been. She turned abruptly, dismissing Jonah with finality. But Jonah, oh foolish Jonah, returned later when the shop was closed. Intent on owning the urn, he broke in with prayers of stealth, and he succeeded in swiping it without raising any alarms. Or so he thought. Jonah took the urn to his modest home, setting it on his living room table as if it were a trophy. He couldn't read the etched script and dismissed it as decoration, unaware that his meddling had already begun to rouse the dormant. You see, the urn wasn't merely ceremonial. It was a prison. It held the burned remains of something kept from this world at great cost. A phoenix? A demon? Something far worse? The lines blur when you speak of being so ancient and forsaken. But its purpose was clear. Confinement. And Jonah had unwittingly freed it. The first sign was the heat. The room grew oppressively warm, suffocatingly so. A thick layer of soot began to appear on the walls, creeping like veiny, blackened fingers. The shadows of his once cozy life took on jagged edges, and every flame he lit, candles, fireplace, even the stove, roared higher and brighter than before, as if something was feeding on them. Then came the whispers. At first, Jonah thought they were in his head, soft, fragmented voices calling his name. But then they grew louder, angrier, reverberating through his very bones. Each time he tried to sleep, he awoke choking on ash that wasn't there. Or so he thought. Realizing he was in over his head, Jonah fled back to Ash and Antiquity, clutching the urn as though it might bite him. Callista, of course, was waiting, serene and knowing. Jonah begged her for help, for forgiveness, for answers. "Do you know what you've done?" she asked in a voice both pitying and cold. "You've undone the lock. Now, it seeks rebirth. Its ashes yearn to be flesh again." Desperate, Jonah urged Callista to reverse it, to undo his mistake. Callista sucked in a sharp breath, and, for a fleeting moment, her composure cracked. "Do you think it's that simple? You cannot reverse the clock when you've set it in motion. But perhaps there is a way." She revealed a ritual, an ancient and perilous means to anchor the being once again to the urn. It would demand a life, a willing sacrifice, she said with eerie calm. Jonah's eyes widened in horror. Callista's lips curved into something resembling a smirk. If you dared to steal its prison, can't you sacrifice for its redemption? Jonah refused. He tried to leave, but Callista blocked the door. No one escapes unfinished business, she purred, her voice gaining otherworldly depth. You owe the ashes their cradle. Suddenly, the urn trembled in his hands. Hairline cracks spiderwebbed across its surface. Callista muttered an incantation, words ancient, forbidden, coated with power. Jonah felt his knees weaken as shadows rose from the urn, forming tendrils of scorching heat. Time twisted. Reality itself seemed to buckle beneath unseen force. When light returned, Jonah was gone. Only the urn remained, its surface smooth once more. Callista sighed and placed it reverently back on the shelf. She wiped her palms, as if trying to rid herself of something sticky, perhaps guilt, or more likely, the ashes of regret. The ashes require balance, she muttered, and for the first time in decades, her face revealed a hint of the years she so masterfully defied. Time had made its claim. Would you like to hold such power, my dear ones? A vessel of life and death, trapped by fire and reborn by folly? Perhaps you should check the corner of your room right now. Who knows what shadows await their liberation? Until our next tale, dearest wanderers, sleep lightly, if at all.